30 some time ago, I returned from the trip to Montenegro that lasted about 30, not about, exactly 37 days, and I wanted to share my observations. So to preface my story, I would like to bring up Jenna Ortega. She was her confessions, like vegan, ex-vegan, need to justify something. So on those vegan publics and vegan pages, they were writing her confessions that she went to shoot a movie in Romania and she was not able to sustain a vegan lifestyle there. Am I filming? Filming. So yeah, she was not able to be fully vegan, so she went pescatarian. Because of that, kind of like Romania doesn't have access to vegan foods. And I was really curious because Montenegro kind of belongs to the same region. If you are not savvy in geography, Montenegro is a part of the Balkan region. It sits on the Adriatic coast, so it's between Italy and Greece if you go from west to southeast. So it's in this beautiful Mediterranean paradise. And sure enough, in Montenegro, you can be fully raw vegan without any trouble. And I was really happy to witness that. So what Jenna Ortega projected, on the one hand, is her business. So I would totally do the same if I belonged to the same school of thought as potentially she belongs to, as vegan, perhaps processed food vegan or cooked food vegan. I don't belong to that school of thought, so it's a little bit foreign to me. I guess I know what she's coming from. In those regions, so in fact, you cannot find like those substitutes for meat, substitutes for cheese, different vegan yogurts. You don't get as mind blown as when you go to Whole Foods and see that literally everything you could possibly imagine being some staple food being replicated in plant-based form. It's not like that, for sure. In fact, in Montenegro, in the city, which was the nearest to where I stayed with my parents, I found one store which was actually a cosmetics store, which had a shelf of vegan foods. There I was buying hemp. Hemp was imported from Spain. And I was also getting lentil pasta. And I was getting some specialties because I was a chef while I was visiting. I wanted to introduce some cool things to my family, so I was buying certain additives and stuff. Not additives. Typically vegan foods. I can see that. Yes, indeed. There are only a handful of options for vegan substitutes for non-vegan foods. And at the same time, Montenegro, yes, it is mostly tourism-driven country, but it is sandwiched between countries with super developed agriculture. And what it really stands out for is its whole foods, greens, nuts, fruits, vegetables, seasonal things. It was so fascinating. So I want to tell you what I was typically getting there, and it pretty much makes my complete nutrition that I usually strive for in the United States. So the quality of Whole Foods was unbeatable. I was able to, while I was there since mid-April till the end of May, I was able to get kumquat season, and kumquats there are so tasty. The only problem with them is that you tend to eat a lot because they're so tasty, but they literally have lemon juice inside. And lemon juice is very harsh on teeth, so then you notice that, oops, I shouldn't have eaten so much or just had to peel the peel off because it's literally concentrated acid that you chew vigorously because kumquat is literally like fragrant orange peel with a little bit of this juicy flesh on the inside. But regardless, so kumquat season, kiwi season, the remnants of citrus season overall, while I was there, the new trees already started like blooming, so I was able to walk through the gardens of orange trees in bloom that smell like fleur d'orange, that is typically very popular in perfumery. But yeah, they still had mandarins, oranges, all local, and they already had trees blooming for the next season, for the next harvest. Kiwis, how tasty they were. When you get kiwis in the US, you usually get a box. First of all, a ton of plastic, right? So you get a ton of plastic filled with 4 or 5 kiwis. I usually end up trying to eat all of them, but 30% are usually completely non-edible. They are like sour potato, like acidic potato, and they decay before they ripen on the shelf. And so having luxury of consuming kiwis from somebody else's garden as of like 3 days ago was insane. Then as I was progressing, as the season was progressing, I almost got strawberry season. If I stayed longer, I would get local strawberries and cherries. On top of that, you have wild greens sold in the market. So the tip for anyone traveling to those regions would be to find your nearest farmer's market and find some grandma that you would be getting food from, because I mean, it would be a shame to not be able to not taste the glory of those foods. I literally was buying nettles, varieties of dandelions, chards, collard greens, aromatic herbs, arugula, beautiful like tasty cucumbers, even tomatoes. As I found good tomatoes by the end of my stay that were actually ripe and soft and aromatic. So you get all those things, all those salad making supplies. The only thing that was not there was kale. Actually, kale is something that they don't have there. But yeah, all other cruciferous vegetables, all other kinds were there. I was able to find those beautiful beans. They're fava beans. They sell fava beans on the market. That was so cool as well. And then nettles. Oh my god, finding nettles. This beautiful grass that's so potent and healthful. And then another fascinating thing that I discovered there was wild asparagus. Wild asparagus is so much tastier than cultivated one. They harvest it by the streams. So along the streams, the creeks, wild asparagus can be found typically. And it even grows almost in the entire US. So if you have a creek, if you have a house, please go explore. Maybe you have beautiful wild asparagus. It's green with purplish inclusions, purplish flowers. So it's like green and purple, alternating. So what it tastes like, I mean, the same fragrance, same flavor as cultivated asparagus, but it has much more tender stem. And how to describe? I mean, it's just so easy to eat. It's so good. It's so much better than cultivated asparagus. Very nice. So those things, yeah. And then nuts. If I miss something from Montenegro, besides everything that I already listed, I absolutely miss nuts. Nuts, they were so fresh and tasty, and they were 5 times cheaper than they are in the United States. Currently, I buy a little tray of almonds, California almonds. You know for how much? $17. I'm on the verge of giving up on them because they're not worth it. They're not tasty, but they're so expensive. So to me, it almost doesn't make sense. Hazelnuts here, they're all transparent, not fresh. You know, they have this like sensation that you shouldn't be eating them. There, you could just eat hazelnuts because they're so good and fresh. It was phenomenal. In terms of all those whole foods, it's uncomparably better to the US because everything is fresh, readily available, likely local or near local, because it's imports either from Albania, something from Serbia, of course, something like apples, like beautiful polished apples come from Poland. Somehow they don't have apples. But then, yeah, upcoming harvests would be grapes, would be pomegranates, another season of citrus. So all year round you have some fun. And then they have also some local fruits that are typically not represented in the US. And then varieties of beans and stuff like that. It's just so good. And then on top of that, imagine you have environment that is, if you live on the coast, then you're sandwiched between, likely you have evergreen forests, evergreen trees, mountains, and you have the seaside and beautiful sunshine. Like, what else do you need? It's literally paradise. It's literally paradise conditions there. So you are able to walk natively through nature every day. So whatever errands you are running, you just walk naturally up and down hill, breathing, saturating yourself with those beautiful like fragrances that all those trees and flowers emit. Then with sea spray, this beautiful ionized healing air. It's so good and wholesome. I myself, I'm very subjective, I'm very biased. I love sea ever since I saw sea for the first time when I was 5 years old or 6, whatever. I I just fell in love with it. It's something that is so dear to my soul, to my heart, to my body. I love sea so much that it has been one of my life goals. In fact, for my the entire lifetime, I have been dreaming or aiming to be able to live at the seaside, at least for like big chunk of the year. And then also witnessing the environment in which there's so much sunshine that you can literally feel so energized, so positive, so uplifted just from access to the sun, access to light. Warm rains, humidity, the perfect level of humidity. So all of those conditions were so healing. I felt so happy there on like biological level. It was very nice. It was very healthful. And then, okay, of course, like coming to upstate New York after this and having access to walking only along the highway, inhaling and propagating through your body all those nice heavy metals and and from the car exhaust and all those that CO and CO2, delicious. Contrast is stark, so that's what I want to say. And then knowing that summer is only 3 months and there's no like body of water where you could just, regardless what was interesting, I'm portraying some Garden of Eden right now. Beautiful food, beautiful environment, like on all levels. You seems like you put a human there and human thrives. Just human becomes a superhuman in full connection, in full like in its brightest, in its most advanced form, right? So you feel like, yes, it's what's supposed to happen. In reality, what happens is that lifespan in Montenegro is, guess, it's lower than in the United States. That was what shocked me. It shocked me and didn't shock me because I looked up Montenegro life expectancy after I was observing people there. In fact, lots of people have obesity there. So middle-aged people, especially men, will have obesity. Drinking in their culture is normal. Then another huge thing is smoking in their culture is normal. Then the third thing is that eating animal products, like a ton of animal products, is normal. And then on top of that, eating animal products with starches is absolutely normal. Eating animal products with starches with dairy is absolutely normal. Drinking alcohol on top of that is normal. Guess what are the main killers that enable this low life expectancy in paradise? Those are cardiovascular diseases, lung cancer, other cancers, and one of the major comorbidities is obesity. I was shocked when I read this because it literally shows me that people make choices. People make bad choices regardless of where you put them. People start valuing their health only when they start losing it. And some people even then don't take any action. So everybody has very different level of being scared when they start caring about their health and trying to return it. And so when you watch the environment, which absolutely, or state of people that clashes with the environment that you're observing and filtering through yourself, that you appreciate so much, that you feel must be so rejuvenating, it really induces lots of questions. Another thing that I noticed that probably enables those habits is that while there is a very developed and very good scene of Whole Foods, when you go to the store and you pick the items from the shelves, actually processed packaged foods have much worse quality than some widely available items from the US scene of packaged foods. Granted that US has much more variety of those things, and I wanted to cook something for my family, and I needed mustard for the recipe. So I went to the store and I read the labels. I could not find mustard without sugar and natural flavors. I'm like, mustard is itself super flavored, like super fragrant thing. What do you need to flavor it with? Vanilla, like what is supposed to be there? And then I see there is this Nestle logo. So corporations, of course, they specialize in making low quality, very bad foods, and they spread their hands, arms everywhere, all over the world. And of course, people from impoverished countries, they're one of the targets for their malicious business. And actually, what was surprising is that processed foods were much more expensive compared to whole foods. So, for example, I could build my like basket of greens, beautiful, tasty fruits, nuts, for about an average like 3 times cheaper than I can build it in the US. There, like in terms of processed foods are more expensive. Like something like Barilla. Barilla's sauce was something that exists all over the world, so it must translate. Even though Barilla is Italian brand, seems like so it should be just delivered by boat across the Adriatic Sea. But it was probably 2 times more expensive, or 1.5, 50% more expensive than that in the US, which was curious observation. But yeah, so moral of the story. Basically, first thing is that simple outcome is that if you go to not so much developed country, don't be afraid. Yes, you won't find as much variety of processed foods, but you will be always presented with the variety of whole foods. And you need to find farmers markets and maybe go harvest some plants yourself, and just you will find everything likely. So it will be even healthier than consuming some processed foods. Even in the most beautiful environment, people can still be miserable and make very bad, deteriorating choices, degrading choices. And this Montenegro is the brightest example of that. The level of happiness, the low lifespan, and choices that people make while having cheap and available, accessible options just doesn't make sense to me. So it's up to you, and only you again, to make choices that will promote your vitality, health. It's your responsibility. It's not the environment, unless you live in somewhere in like Arctic. If you live somewhere where it's normal, like climate suited for humans to live, or almost suited for humans to live, it's all up to you. You will always have resources, I bet, like 100%. And so you cannot blame the environment for that. You can only blame your something that prevents you from doing things that are right for you. Because nobody forces people to smoke. Nobody forces people to drink. Nobody forces people to eat processed food. Nobody forces people to stick to their habitual dysfunctional ways. It's their choice. And you can put them in paradise, but if their mind is geared towards doing something that deteriorates them, there's nothing that can be done. And it's not the paradise to blame. It is literally people's choice. And actually read Return to the Brain of Eden book.